So James Bond is finally returning to video games in nearly 15 years, and 007 First Light could completely redefine the franchise. From the new direction of the story, gameplay features, hidden details, and what this may mean for the future of Bond games, here are the 10 biggest things you need to know before 007 First Light releases. This is a completely original Bond story. Unlike previous Bond games that adapted or tied into existing movies, 007 First Light is telling a completely original story. That means this isn't based on any existing film or actor version of Bond. Instead, the developers are building their own version of 007 from the ground up. It hasn't been without controversy with comments from the developers, but I think personally that was blown way out of proportion like everything else on the internet. Honestly, that's exciting. People were complaining the fact he has a scar, but this is straight from the original books. The same people complaining they were straying too far from the books. As a fan, I'm excited to see where they go with the character and the new villains along the way with new iterations on beloved existing characters. Being made by the Hitman developers. One of the biggest reasons people are hyped is because the game is being developed by IO Interactive, the studio behind the much-loved Hitman trilogy. And if there's any studio suited to making a Bond game, it's them. For years people have said this is a match made in heaven, and now they have a chance to show why they needed to be the ones to helm Bond. The stealth, disguises, espionage, gadgets and globe-trotting missions in Hitman already feel Bond inspired. Add the charisma and charm and style, it's hard to see why this won't be a huge success. We can expect many gameplay mechanics to be carried over, and more open missions with multiple ways to tackle an objective, along with the introduction of fresh things we haven't seen before. The likes of a license to kill being an example of this, where Bond can only use guns when the enemy shows clear intent to kill. Bond will be younger and less experienced. One of the most interesting reveals from when this was first announced over 6 years ago is that this version of Bond is younger and less experienced. This game focuses on Bond earning his 00 status, meaning we may see a rougher, more reckless version of the character, opening the door for more character development and a fresh take on the iconic spy with a potential trilogy down the road. Expect huge cinematic set pieces. If there's one thing Bond needs, it's spectacle and style, and everything we've seen so far suggests 007 First Light is aiming big with these sequences. Many fans have questioned the capability of these running smoothly after some clear issues in a recent showcase. This does seem to be fixed, however, with them saying it runs 60 frames per second on PlayStation 5 Pro as standard, or 60 frames per second on performance mode on the original PlayStation 5. Stealth will probably be a major focus. Because this is coming from Hitman developers, don't expect this to be a non-stop shooter. Stealth is likely going to play a huge role, especially with the license to kill feature we discussed earlier. What really interests me is the introduction of bluff, almost giving you a second chance if you were to get caught in a sneaky situation. They have apparently done many lines of dialogue for this, so it does not become repetitive, making Bond both intelligent and tactical. The game could launch a Bond gaming universe. This may not just be one game. There's growing speculation that 007 First Light could become the start of a long-term Bond gaming franchise. If successful, we could see more games in the future. This game has created a lot of interest and becoming the most wish-listed game. They need to capitalise on that hype in the final product, but the interest is clearly there to delve more into this new Bond character. Gadgets are expected to be a huge feature. It wouldn't be Bond without its gadgets. While we still don't know every detail yet, fans will be thrilled to hear the gadgets are set to play a key role in gameplay and they aren't just there for show. We have seen the watch and its many abilities in some gameplay videos, but we expect a lot more surprises and maybe some classics to show up for fans to enjoy. The tone looks more serious and grounded. From everything shown so far, 007 First Light appears to be taking a more grounded tone. Think more Casino Royale than the exaggerated style of some older Bond films, with that undoubtedly sprinkled in. The developers seem to have read deeply into the books and taken many inspirations to respect the original material while adding its own fresh new spin. This could be the biggest Bond game ever made. Bond games have existed for decades, but the interest around this game seems to have built substantially, with it being 15 years since the last game. The budget, the ambition, visuals, and developer reputation all suggest this could be the most important Bond game since GoldenEye 007, which is no small feat. If IO Interactive delivers on the potential here, 007 First Light could become one of the defining action-adventure games of recent years. Combat and gunplay overhaul. IO Interactive, as impressive as they are not known for action and gunplay. In the Hitman game, the use of guns was more of a last resort, and even Kane and Lynch felt a bit clunky in the gunplay, but that game is, to be fair, over 15 years old. We can see in the gameplay footage that they have put a lot of attention into this for 007 First Light, with brutal takedowns reminiscent of James Bond Bloodstone, an amazing underrated game. The ability to throw objects at enemies, we can see this perfectly when Bond hops a pool table while simultaneously throwing a pool ball, disorientating him and while pummeling some other guy in the face. Another source of inspiration, I think, is Sleeping Dogs, a fantastic game with some amazing combat. A key component is the environmental kills that can take place, although perhaps this may not be as violent, but it's great to see Bond grab a guy and shove his face first into a desk, or whatever that may be. The same attention to detail seems to have been put into the gunplay, with the guns sounding impactful and the fun flips and catches of the guns making for a consistent flow in gameplay with some destructive environments, with the likes of the fire extinguishers exploding. Fans are understandably excited, and we can't wait to see what IO Interactive have produced. So those are 10 things you need to know before the 007 First Light finally releases on May 27th. Honestly, this has the potential to become the biggest game of the year, and maybe even the beginning of a whole new era for James Bond in gaming. But what do you think, and what do you want most from the game? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn notifications on for more gaming videos and more Bond coverage coming soon.